My twin brother Noah was worse at everything than me, which drove my mother Diana crazy. She prayed to anyone who would listen for help. Eventually, a psychic told her I was stealing Noah's good fortune. The longer I stayed near him, the more of his luck I'd absorb. And after hearing this, my mother immediately gave me away to my Aunt Rachel and Uncle David, who couldn't have children of their own. What she never knew was that Noah had been suppressing my good fortune all along. Once I was away from him, I was destined to become a walking good luck charm. After my father died, my mother pulled strings and spent a fortune to get Noah into a good school in the city. But Noah was a disappointment. He got addicted to video games and even stole money from home to visit gaming cafes. Meanwhile, I was getting top scores at my local elementary school. You both came from the same womb. How can you be so different? My mother asked me with disgust in her voice. I thought she was complimenting me for being smarter than Noah, and I couldn't help smiling. But her face suddenly twisted with anger, and she slapped me hard across the face. What are you so smug about? Your brother did poorly on his test and you're gloating about it? The blow left me stunned, my ears ringing. That's when I finally understood. I wasn't allowed to do better than Noah, or I'd be punished. I never dared to get first place again. But Noah's grades never improved. He was even shorter than other kids his age. My mother brought in a psychic to read our fortunes. I peeked through a crack in the door and heard the psychic telling her, "Your twins, the boy and girl, are like yin and yang. Their fates are in conflict. The older one is a star of good fortune, but the younger one is a curse. The little one not only cursed her father to death, but is also stealing her brother's luck. If this continues, your son's bad luck is only beginning." The yellow talismans in my mother's hand scattered to the floor. I was terrified too. My mother spotted me staring with ice-cold hatred and disgust. No wonder after my husband died, Noah stopped growing and his mind got dull. It was all because that damn girl was stealing his luck. My heart sank. I stood there terrified and confused, a whirlwind of emotions inside me. My mom had always favored Noah. Meat and eggs were for him. I only got wild greens and sweet potatoes. But my dad was different. He would buy me candy and little cakes. When my mom called me a waste of money, he would reason with her, saying times had changed and it didn't matter if you had a boy or a girl. "Emma and Noah are both my treasures," he would say. My mom would always scoff, saying he'd learn his lesson when he got old and realized you could only rely on a son. But Dad never made it to old age. A sudden battle with cancer took his life. And now this psychic was claiming that I had cursed him to death. Overwhelmed with panic, guilt, and injustice, I curled up in a corner and started crying. When my mom heard me, she didn't comfort me. She just sneered, "You still have the nerve to cry?" That night, I expected a beating. But for the first time ever, my mom put a piece of pork rib in my bowl. Noah, who assumed all meat was his, immediately stood up to grab it. I quickly shoved it into my mouth before he could take it. After dinner, I watched my mom nervously, but she didn't yell at me. The next day, she took me on an hour-long bus ride from our village to a park in the city. The park was old, with only one swing. Usually, Noah sat on it while I pushed from behind. But that day, my mom was incredibly patient. She pushed me on the swing for a long, long time until it grew dark and the park was empty. She stood under the moonlight and said, "Emma, wait here. I'm going to the store to buy you and your brother some snacks. I'll be right back to get you." Trying to please her, I nodded obediently. I waited all night. My mother never came back. The last bus was long gone, and I didn't have any money. The late autumn night was freezing. As I huddled in the bushes, shivering uncontrollably, the truth finally hit me. My mom had abandoned me. The next morning, Aunt Rachel pounded on my mother's door. "Diana, what's wrong with you? You took Emma to the city and left her in a park all night. Don't you know how many kidnappers are out there? Even if she wasn't taken, she's just a little kid. It's freezing out. Were you trying to let her freeze to death?" The moment the door opened, my aunt unleashed her anger. I clung to her hand, still shivering from the cold night. If she hadn't seen me hiding in the bushes on her way to work that morning, I probably would have been kidnapped. My mother seemed dazed by the yelling, but when she saw me hiding behind my aunt, she looked guilty and couldn't meet my eyes. She pulled my aunt aside and whispered something to her. After listening, my aunt exploded in disbelief. Because some fortune teller spouted nonsense, you abandoned your own daughter? Have you lost your mind? My mother tried to defend herself. Rachel, if it wasn't for her, why would her father have died so suddenly? And why would Noah suddenly stop growing and fall behind in school? It's because her fate is too strong. She cursed her dad to death and now she's suppressing Noah's luck. Say whatever you want. From now on, Noah is my only child, my mother shouted, then quickly ducked inside and bolted the door, leaving me standing on the doorstep completely lost. My aunt hammered on the door in disbelief. My mother's voice came from inside. How about this? You and David can't have kids, right? Just take Emma and erase her. She's not as good as Noah, but at least she can take care of you in your old age. What kind of horrible thing is that to say? My aunt stared at the door as if she could burn a hole through it with her eyes. But my mom wouldn't open it no matter what. Finally, my aunt sighed and looked down at me, her voice resigned. Emma, let's go. You can come home with me for now. I stayed at my aunt and uncle's house for a few days. During that time, they tried to take me back to my mom several times. Each time we were driven away with curses and insults. Then I overheard my aunt and uncle talking. My uncle David's heart had softened. He wanted to adopt me. My aunt Rachel complained a little, saying they didn't have much money and what good was a little girl anyway. I wanted to run out and tell her, I'll work hard, I don't eat much. Just give me a place to stay and I'll wash all the clothes and dishes until they're spotless. But I didn't dare speak. I was afraid they'd know I was eavesdropping. Torn and anxious, I eventually fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, my aunt was looking at me intently. Starting today, you're not Emma anymore. Your name is Olivia. When you grow up and make something of yourself, you have to pay me back, you hear? My aunt wanted me. I nodded vigorously, terrified she would change her mind. The next day, my aunt went to my mom and got my custody papers. My mom couldn't wait to cut me out of the family like she was getting rid of a plague. She even repeated over and over that if I ended up cursing their whole family to death, it had nothing to do with her, and they shouldn't even think about giving me back. My aunt was furious and screamed at her for 10 minutes outside the registrar's office. As we left, my mom was practically celebrating, saying that now that I was gone, nothing would hold back Noah's good fortune. But then I suddenly remembered what the psychic had said of the twins. The older one is the star of fortune, the younger one is the curse. What my mom didn't know was that before my dad died, as he lay weakly in his hospital bed, he told me a secret. He knew my mom was old-fashioned and favored boys, and he was afraid she would spoil Noah rotten. So he secretly swapped our birth times on the records. He made Noah, the older brother, responsible for taking care of his little sister, to give him a sense of duty. So the younger twin, the one born later, wasn't me at all. I was the star of good fortune whose luck had been suppressed by my brother all along. My uncle helped me transfer schools. I was now in a school in the city, in the same class as Noah. Because I had to act dumber than my brother to make my mom happy, I instinctively answered every question wrong on my first test. I ended up in last place. Noah was second to last. With someone to be worse than him, Noah swaggered around the classroom taunting me. You idiot, you can't even answer a single question right. You're so embarrassing. No wonder mom didn't want you. I didn't understand what he was so proud of. He only got 2 questions right himself. Besides, he had no idea that to make sure I scored lower than him, I had to perfectly avoid every correct answer, which was even harder than getting a perfect score. When our classmates found out I was his sister, they laughed, saying our whole family was made of idiots. When my aunt found out, she was furious. She stormed into the school and announced in front of the teacher and the whole class that Noah and I were no longer family. When we got home, she warned me sternly, Olivia, I remember you used to get first place. How did you fall so far behind? You have to study hard and make something of yourself. If you don't, I'm sending you back to your real mom. I knew her bark was worse than her bite. The next day, not only did she not kick me out, but she also put an extra egg in my breakfast noodles. From that day on, I decided I wouldn't hide my abilities anymore. I wanted to make my aunt proud. Soon it was time for midterms. This time, I didn't intentionally get anything wrong, but the teacher said the results would only be announced at the parent-teacher conference, so no one knew their scores beforehand. I was a little nervous, unsure how much I had improved. On the day of the conference, both my aunt and my mom showed up. The second she saw my aunt, my mom started with snide remarks. Well, Rachel, I bet you see what a little jinx she is now, huh? I heard from Noah that she was dead last on the last monthly test. So embarrassing. She'll definitely be at the bottom again for midterms. And you wasted all that money sending her to a city school. If you ask me, you should just take her home, give her enough food so she doesn't starve, and when she's 18, send her to work. If that doesn't work, you could always marry her off for some money. Then you two could pitch in and help us buy a house for Noah and find him a wife. After all, our Noah is the only male heir to the Wilson family name. Listening to her, my heart grew colder and colder. Why, after abandoning me, did she feel no guilt? How could she so shamelessly belittle me in front of my classmates, my teacher, and the aunt who had taken me in? My aunt shooed her away like a fly, not mincing words. Get lost! I don't talk to people who've clearly lost their minds. My mom didn't even get angry. She just sat down haughtily, waiting to watch me and my aunt be humiliated. She was disappointed. The moment the report cards were handed out, my mom's jaw dropped. How is this possible? We got rid of the little jinx, so how could Noah still... My mom stared at the paper in her hands, muttering in disbelief. The report card was crystal clear. Noah's name was at the very bottom of the list, and my name was at the very top, first place. Olivia, you did it! You really made me proud! My aunt clutched the paper, beaming with joy, and didn't forget to lay into my mom. See that, Diana? Your son is the one who's a waste of money. Emma always got good grades in the village school, but you only cared about your son. Every time Emma got first place, you'd beat her or scream at her, accusing her of stealing Noah's good luck or some other nonsense. Did you really think Emma was a bad student? Give me a break. She was just more considerate than your son and was afraid of making you angry. You had such a wonderful daughter and didn't know how to cherish her. You really must have water on the brain. As my aunt said all this, she held my hand tightly. I lowered my head, afraid she would see the tears welling up in my eyes. So she had believed in me all along. That's why she went through all the trouble to transfer my school and did everything she could to get me an education in the city. I secretly wiped away a tear and looked up at my mom. After my aunt's tirade, my mom's face was a mask of ugly resentment. She glared at me, her voice dripping with hatred. It must be because this little jinx is in the same class as Noah. She's too close to him. She's stealing his luck again. At this thought, she slapped her thigh. That's right. The psychic said Noah had to get away from her. She gets first place, and look what happens. She's dragged my Noah down with her. No, you have to transfer her out of this school. You can't let her stay here. She needs to be far, far away from Noah. Clearly, she didn't believe a word my aunt said. Instead, she continued to blame me for my brother's poor performance. My aunt was stunned by my mom's logic. She looked at her like she was a complete moron, speechless with anger. Seeing that my mom wasn't going to let it go, my aunt shot her a withering glare. Olivia is staying right here. We're not transferring her. If you don't like it, you can take your son and find a new school. We're not going anywhere. My mom kept arguing with my aunt until the conference was over. My aunt grabbed my hand, and we hurried away, ignoring whatever else my mom was shouting. In her words, she was afraid we'd catch her terminal case of stupid if we stayed any longer. For a while after that, my mom kept making a scene. Finally, when she saw my aunt wouldn't budge, she ran out of options and actually transferred Noah to another school. The night she finished the paperwork, she made a special trip to my aunt's house to deliver a threat. You just wait. Noah's at a new school now. That little jinx can't curse him anymore. From now on, she's your problem. She'll be cursing your family instead. Seeing my mom act like this made me feel both anxious and deeply ashamed. Thankfully, my aunt comforted me. What curse? What jinx? Don't listen to your mother. She's sick in the head. You can't believe a word she says. She just can't stand to see you doing well. Olivia, listen to me. Now that you're part of our family, you have to prove them wrong. You have to do better and better. However, my mom's words that night turned out to be a dark prophecy. Not long after, my aunt and uncle's family really did suffer a major upheaval. That year, a recession hit, and my uncle's company started massive layoffs. My uncle, who had worked there for nearly 20 years, managed to keep his job, but my aunt wasn't so lucky. She was laid off. Suddenly, our family had one less income and one more mouth to feed: me. When my mom heard about this, she started spreading rumors everywhere that I was a walking disaster, and that anyone who got close to me would have bad luck. My aunt was so furious she didn't leave the house for days. My uncle had to bring home groceries after work, but she couldn't stay home forever without earning money. Out of the blue, a friend of hers who had a business in New York showed up at our door. She wanted my aunt to go into partnership with her to become a distributor for a new product. When the family assets were divided years ago, my grandparents gave the house and most of the savings to my dad because my uncle didn't have any children. But my dad had a good heart and, behind my mom's back, gave my uncle $20,000 to help him out. My aunt was worried about risking $10,000 or $20,000 on some vague distribution business. She had always managed the family's finances, but had never run a business before. Plus, I still had school to think about. She was afraid if the money was lost, it would affect my future. So I took my aunt's hand. "Aunt Rachel, do you trust me?" She looked at me confused. "Olivia?" I looked her in the eye and said earnestly, "Aunt Rachel, you should go for it. I have a feeling that if you do this, you'll become a successful businesswoman and make a lot of money." My words gave her a boost of confidence. After thinking it over for 2 days, she took the money and went to New York. A month later, she came back as an official distributor and started her business. Oh, and by the way, that was the year the first smartphones were just taking off. The product my aunt was distributing was one of the first generation of smartphone accessories. Those smartphone accessories became an overnight sensation. My aunt made a huge amount of money. She would often hug me, laughing, "Olivia, you really are my good luck charm. If you hadn't given me that push, I never would have had the courage to go all the way to New York to source products and become a distributor." Her smile was so warm. The money she made was an astronomical sum back then, more than she had earned in several years combined. Our family suddenly became the talk of the town. Even the director of my uncle's factory asked him to put in a good word with my aunt to reserve a few accessories. But when my biological mother found out, she was practically green with envy. When my aunt first went to New York, my mom had been gossiping behind her back, saying it was a pipe dream for a woman to start a business, that it was improper. Now, everyone knew my aunt was a successful businesswoman. It was my mom who became the laughingstock. People said she was short-sighted and ignorant, and that now she was probably scrambling to suck up to my aunt. My mom, unwilling to accept it, kept cursing, saying we'd have our day of reckoning soon enough. That day came sooner than she thought. That night, a massive storm hit. Our house was old and the roof started leaking. None of us got a good night's sleep. The next day, my aunt and uncle stared listlessly at the holes in the ceiling, trying to figure out how to fix it. Suddenly, I said, "Aunt Rachel, you've made a lot of money, right? Why don't we buy a new house in the city?" My uncle and aunt were both a little stunned. Buying a house was no small expense. My aunt was hesitant. "Our house is old, but we can patch it up and it'll be fine. Wouldn't it be better to save the money to buy more inventory and make more selling accessories?" But I insisted. My classmate Jake's dad runs a company, and he said the era of these early smartphone accessories will probably be over soon. Everyone will switch to more advanced ones. "So, Aunt Rachel, maybe you shouldn't rush to buy more stock. Let's just watch the market for a couple of months." Oh, and Jake's dad also said that real estate prices are going to go way, way up. Maybe millions for a single apartment. My aunt and uncle couldn't help but laugh at me. "Millions? What do you think it is, a space shuttle? How could a house be that expensive?" I kept trying to persuade them. "But the new buildings are so nice. Jake's family even has an elevator. Aunt Rachel, money sitting in your pocket won't grow. Why not buy a house? Let's take a gamble." They didn't answer me right away, but that evening I saw them looking at a flyer for a new apartment complex. One day after school, my aunt mysteriously took me to a new place. We got on an elevator and went up to the sixth floor. Olivia, from now on, this is our new home. Our small town was very insular and news traveled slowly. When buildings with elevators first appeared, very few people dared to live in them. They'd rather squeeze into rundown neighborhoods than risk tens of thousands of dollars on a new apartment. But my aunt had been to New York. She had seen what a big city looked like. So when she saw how beautiful the new building was, and that it was several times cheaper than anything in New York, she gritted her teeth and bought it, even though it was a huge expense. My aunt used almost all of their savings and even stopped ordering more accessories. When my mom saw that my aunt had closed her shop, she assumed they were broke and started mocking them again. See, I told you so. You can't be too flashy. Buying an apartment with an elevator? Ridiculous. Now they probably can't even afford to eat. That worthless little brat. And they even changed her name to Olivia. Her name is Emma. She's nothing but bad luck. See, the little money they made is all gone now, thanks to her curse. Oh, and ever since Emma left, our Noah has started growing again. Grades and all that will come in time. But you two, now that Emma is your problem, don't even think about bringing her back to me when you can't feed her. I don't want her. After saying her piece, my mom took Noah's hand and walked away. My uncle and aunt were fuming. But say what you will, Noah had indeed grown a lot recently. Except he wasn't growing taller, he was growing wider. From a distance, it looked like my mom was walking a giant watermelon. That night, my aunt and uncle got home and started talking again. We can't just sit at home all day, we need to make money. Yeah, we're still young, we have money now, but who knows what the future holds. They had a new problem: how to make money. I walked over to them. Uncle David, Aunt Rachel, let's start selling smartphones. They're going to be the next big thing. I heard they can even take pictures and play music. Jake's dad has one. I saw it when I was at his house. I think we could make a lot of money selling those. After their previous success, my aunt and uncle now took my suggestions very seriously. Soon, my aunt took a trip to Chicago to explore becoming a distributor for a smartphone brand. When she came back, she became the first smartphone distributor in our city. In just 3 months, my aunt earned nearly $500,000. It was many times more than she had made selling the accessories. Relatives we hadn't heard from in years started showing up bearing all sorts of gifts. One day it was some distant second cousin. The next, it was a great uncle from back home. My aunt and uncle were suddenly incredibly popular, but the goal was always the same: money. My aunt sent them all packing. She was so happy she couldn't stop smiling. This is all thanks to Olivia. All this money will be for Olivia one day. My uncle agreed, calling me their little lucky cat. I also became the envy of all my classmates. But one day after school, as I was walking to my tutoring session, I suddenly felt someone following me. From the sound of the footsteps, it was a man. I didn't dare turn around. I just walked faster and faster. But when I sped up, he sped up too. I started to run. The moment I ran, he started running too. Olivia, why are you running so fast? Just as I reached our front door, my uncle was coming out. I stumbled and crashed right into him. Uncle, someone was following me. I was so nervous I was stuttering. My uncle frowned and looked behind me, his voice rising in surprise. Noah? Noah came into our house. He was holding a bowl, his mouth greasy from eating. It was his second bowl. My aunt and uncle sat across from him, exchanging a look. Noah, where's your mother? My uncle asked. Noah was still licking the last of the gravy from his bowl. My mom said she went to Chicago to do big business. She said she'll come get me when she's rich. Then why were you following Olivia? Olivia? Oh, you mean Emma? My mom said if she's not back, I should just stick with Olivia. Wherever she goes, I go. That way I won't starve. How could your mother do something like that? My aunt couldn't help but spit out, Ugh, she's trying to dump him on us. She's abandoning her own kid now. Noah was a simpleton. He didn't care that the person being insulted was his own mother. His eyes were glued to the pork knuckle and gravy in front of him. I had to admit, since we had been separated, he had definitely grown into a perfect square. I used to be thin and a bit tan from working in the village. Now, away from that home, I was paler, prettier, and my face had filled out. I no longer looked like the poor, scrawny Emma. With my new family's business booming, I even had the air of a young lady from a wealthy family. In contrast, Noah was now fat and puffy, getting out of breath after walking just a few steps. Aunt Rachel, another bowl! Noah shamelessly handed his bowl to my aunt. My aunt and uncle tried calling my mom multiple times, but she never picked up. It seemed she was determined to dump Noah on us as well. My uncle sighed, left with no choice but to let Noah stay. Whoa, is this an elevator? Noah clutched his backpack, staring up and down inside the elevator, constantly reaching out to touch the buttons. Don't touch that, my aunt said, smacking his hand away. Noah ignored her. A few seconds later, we were inside the apartment and his attention shifted. Oh my God, a huge sofa. Wow, you can see our school from here. That's our school's field. Cindy, the prettiest girl in my class, lives in this building too. Noah chattered on, oblivious to the fact that no one was paying him any attention. That evening, my aunt cleared out the guest room for Noah. It was a small room with just a little bed and a small desk, not even a closet. Noah immediately threw a fit. Why is Olivia's room so big? I want to stay in Olivia's room. He had cased the entire apartment a few minutes after arriving. My room wasn't just big, it also had its own bathroom, just like the master bedroom. My aunt had arranged it that way during the renovation. She said I was growing up and would need my own private space. Besides the bathroom, my aunt had also installed a large closet and a computer for me, which made the room look quite impressive. Noah's eyes had lit up when he saw my room. I want the big room. I don't want this small one. Noah started throwing a tantrum. My aunt's patience was at its limit. This is Olivia's house, and that is Olivia's room. If you want to stay here, you'll stay in the guest room. Why? Mom said all of this will be mine someday, Noah shouted, then tried to dart into my room, but my uncle, quick on his feet, grabbed him. Help! Help me! Noah started screaming. Quiet! My uncle roared. One more peep out of you, and I'm sending you home. With my mom gone, Noah, who was used to being waited on hand and foot, knew he'd have trouble even getting a meal if he went back. He knew which side his bread was buttered on and immediately fell silent. But after my aunt and uncle went back to their room, I caught the look in his eyes. It was a hateful glare, as if I had stolen his most prized possession. For a second, he looked like he wanted to kill me. My mom really did just dump Noah and disappear. For a full 6 months, there wasn't a single phone call or letter. During that time, my uncle's factory closed down. He opened an electronics store selling smartphone accessories and computer parts. He and my aunt worked together, landing several big clients. Combined with steady daily sales, they started making more and more money. Just when we were all starting to suspect my mom had remarried in Chicago and abandoned her precious son for good, she reappeared. David, Rachel, you have to help me. The moment she saw my uncle, she dropped to her knees. There were other customers in the store, and all eyes turned toward us. But my mom didn't care. She just kept wailing on the floor, Save me! If you don't save me, then they're going to kill me. My uncle pulled her up. Not wanting her to disrupt the business, he quickly gave some instructions to an employee and rushed her home. It turned out she had borrowed money from loan sharks. When she'd left so abruptly, she really had gone to start a business. She saw how much money my aunt made with the smartphone accessories and, despite her scornful words, had been secretly gathering information. At first, she did make a little money in Chicago, even more than my aunt had initially. When she heard my aunt had quit the business, she mentally cursed her for being a fool. Her ambition was huge. She wanted to become the distributor for our entire state. But she only had about $10,000 in cash. The wholesalers wouldn't waste their time on such a small-time player. So, to make a big score, she mortgaged the house my father had left her. She thought she'd make back her investment in 6 months at the latest, but she never expected the market to change so fast. The smartphone accessory market collapsed overnight. She had tried to jump on the bandwagon at the last minute, but only ended up eating dust. Now, all the money was gone, and she owed a fortune to dangerous people. Diana sat on my aunt and uncle's sofa, a mess of snot and tears. That house was what your brother left me. I can't let them take it. My aunt and uncle just looked at her, their expressions unreadable. My uncle spoke first. Diana, our families have been separate for a long time. Before he could finish, my mom cut him off. Separate or not, we're still family. You can't just abandon me. Are you going to watch me and Noah end up on the street? You can't be so heartless. She wailed and argued. Enough! My aunt couldn't hold back any longer. Diana, you are a complete fool. With your waterlogged brain, you thought you could make money? In your dreams. You're the one who said that after we split the family, we were strangers. And what have you done? You've dumped one kid after another on us, and now you want money? How can you be so greedy? Have some shame. My mom was rendered speechless and could only turn her helpless gaze back to my uncle. Sigh, my uncle sighed. Diana will overlook the fact that you dumped Noah on us all this time. You should go home now. Diana couldn't believe her brother-in-law was being so cold. Suddenly, her eyes landed on me sitting quietly off to the side, and they lit up. Olivia! She lunged at me and grabbed my hand. Olivia, help your mother. Talk to your aunt and uncle for me. Tell them to help me. I did it all for you kids. Her grip was painfully tight, and she pulled so hard I almost hit my head on the coffee table. Olivia, watch out. Thankfully, my aunt caught me just in time. Now even my normally good-natured uncle couldn't take it anymore. Diana, if you're going to have a meltdown, do it outside. Don't you dare hurt the child. My mom suddenly seemed to find her confidence. She's my daughter. What's wrong with her helping her own mother? My aunt and uncle were now completely stuck with my mom. She threatened them, saying if they didn't give her the money, she would take me away and sell me to the loan sharks. Come on, we're all family at the end of the day. There's no need to be so cruel. If something happens to me, it won't be good for you either. My aunt held me tightly, refusing to let go. Diana, have you no shame? The moment you found out I couldn't have children, you demanded we split the family assets. You played the victim in front of Mom and Dad, crying about how you needed the house and money to get a wife for Noah, and what happened? You gambled it all away in 2 or 3 years. You said your daughter was a curse, that she stole your son's luck, so you threw her at me to raise. I felt sorry for this girl, gave her a new name, and made her part of our family. Her legal papers are with us now. You want to take her back and sell her? I'm telling you, no way. My mom's face grew uglier and uglier, turning as dark as the stinking ditch by my grandma's house. But she wasn't the type to be swayed by a scolding. I may not have raised her for long, but I gave birth to her. Without me, she wouldn't exist. She has to take care of me. My aunt was so angry she could only sputter, you, unable to form a sentence. She truly couldn't believe someone so shameless could exist in the world. Just then, the door opened and Noah came home from playing. Mom! Seeing her own son, my mom's attention immediately shifted. Noah! She pulled Noah into a tight hug, checking him from head to toe, confirming that not only had he not lost weight in the past 6 months, he'd even gotten rounder. Noah, don't worry. Mom will never leave you again. We'll take your sister with us when we go home. We'll sell her to pay off my debt and get you money for a wife. My aunt was trembling with rage. Unlike my aunt, however, as I watched my mom's tantrum drag on, I felt a growing sense of calm. I let out a cold laugh and asked her, Ms. Diana, do you really think you can take me with you? My words stunned her. Then she glared at me fiercely. You little brat, what did you call me? Ms. Diana, I'm your mother. As she yelled, she raised her hand to twist my mouth, but my smile only grew colder. My mother? You signed adoption papers with my aunt when I was 7 years old. My legal records were transferred. We severed all ties long ago. If you try to take me by force, my aunt can call the police. And you'll immediately become a kidnapper and extortionist. Extorting $300,000 is a major felony. Under the law, you'd be looking at 10 years or more in prison, plus a fine. And if you refuse to leave, you'll be trespassing and unlawfully occupying private property, which will also land you in jail. After my speech, I sat down calmly on the sofa, poured myself a cup of tea, and slowly raised my eyes to look at her, a mocking smile on my face. So, are you taking me with you? I'm actually quite willing to go with you now. The question is, do you dare? The entire room fell silent. Diana's face was deathly pale. Her mouth opened and closed several times before she managed to force out, "You little witch, are you threatening me? I don't believe they dare to call the police." I chuckled. My aunt and uncle are tough on the outside, but soft on the inside. You're right. They might not actually call the cops on you, but I'm different. I would. The moment you said you were going to sell me to those loan sharks, I already called them. As the words left my mouth, there was a knock at the door. A firm, authoritative voice called out, "Police! Open up!" The police were here. Diana froze on the spot. She probably never imagined that I, the ever-obedient daughter, would suddenly break from her control and call the police on her. "You little monster! You actually dared to call the police on me? I really raised an ungrateful snake." She stared at me with hatred I had never seen before, as if she wanted to eat me alive. I shot back sarcastically. What was I supposed to do? Wait for you to drag me away and sell me to those loan sharks? Ms. Diana, wasn't selling me once enough for you? How many more times do you plan on selling me? I gave you a chance. You're the one who refuses to change. This wasn't the first time I'd thought about calling the police. Years ago, when she beat me black and blue for Noah's sake and made me sleep by the stove, I thought about calling the police. When I was 7, and she tricked me into going to the city only to abandon me in the park, I thought about calling the police. When my aunt rescued me and took me in, and she refused to take me back, I thought about calling the police then too. I wanted to tell her she had committed child abandonment. But every time the thought crossed my mind, I would remember how she once held me, kissed me, and held my hand. Time and time again, my heart softened. But all that suppressed pain had finally reached its breaking point. Diana was furious and wanted to keep screaming. But the police weren't having it. They were in the middle of a crackdown on loan sharks. They took my mom into custody for questioning. My mom was a bully, and the #1 rule of bullies is that they prey on the weak and fear the strong. The second she realized the police were actually going to take her away, she panicked. I I was just angry. I didn't mean it. I'll stop making trouble. Can I just go home? Noah, let's go. Hurry up. Come with Mom. But she called his name several times and Noah didn't make a sound. Noah, my sweet boy. The door to Noah's room was locked. You go. I'm not going. Noah's voice came from inside. At those words, not just my mom, but my aunt and uncle started to panic. Don't be ridiculous. What do you mean you're not leaving? Open the door. My aunt started pounding on the door too. I'm not leaving. This place has an elevator and a big living room and a huge sofa. I'm not going back. Noah wasn't exactly a conscientious person. Growing up, he was treated like a prince, with me to take the fall for everything. He had no idea what the real world was like. After getting used to life at my uncle's house, sleeping in a big bed, watching TV, playing games, and eating good food, he had no desire to go back to their old, small, rundown place. Noah, what are you saying? Mom will make you pork ribs when we get home. I don't want them. I want to live here. Or you can just sell me too. I'm not going with you. I want to stay with my aunt and uncle. I want them to be my parents. My mom whipped her head around and glared at my aunt. What have you done to my son, you barren hen? You can't have your own son, so you're trying to steal mine? Is that it? Just as my aunt and mom were about to start a full-blown fight, I slipped into my room and rummaged through a drawer. When I came back out, I grabbed my aunt's hand. Aunt Rachel, the key! They had all forgotten about the spare key. My mom dragged a kicking and screaming Noah out of the room. Mom, you said it yourself. Aunt and uncle don't have a son, so everything they have will be mine someday, so this house is mine. My aunt and uncle were stunned that Diana had been teaching Noah this. Their faces turned grim. Noah clung to the doorframe, refusing to leave. I don't want you as my mom. I want my aunt to be my mom. You get out. In a fit of rage, he shoved my mom hard. Caught off guard, my mom's lower back slammed into the corner of a table. She fell to the floor, knocking over a teacup. The cup shattered, and a shard of glass embedded itself deep in her left eye. Ah! She screamed in agony, her face covered in blood, bloody tears streaming from the corner of her eye. But Noah seemed not to see. He just kept screaming that he didn't want her as his mother anymore. In that moment, as she cried in pain, blind in one eye, her expression was one of utter shock and confusion. She couldn't seem to understand how her most precious son had suddenly turned into this. Only I knew Noah hadn't changed at all. He had always been stupid and selfish, greedy and cruel. Only my mom had ever treated him like a treasure. And today, all the love she had ever spoiled him with was being repaid in blood upon her own body. The police took Noah away. My mom was first sent to the hospital. After treatment, she was taken in by the police for a long interrogation about the loan sharks. My aunt later told me that my mom was now blind in one eye. With the house mortgaged and gone, she had to work odd jobs and live in a rented apartment. With all her living expenses and that good-for-nothing son of hers, her life was going to be incredibly difficult. But what did that have to do with me? She had abandoned me long ago. The year I graduated from middle school, my aunt and uncle's business had grown so much that we all moved to a big city. My uncle bought a house in a good school district, saying he wanted to give me the best education possible. The new house was even better than our old apartment. The security was excellent. You needed a key card and facial recognition to get into the community. Diana and Noah never came to bother us again. And the new house was put in my name. When I first found out, I was worried my aunt would be upset. But my uncle later told me in private that it was my aunt's idea to put my name on it. "She's my only precious daughter. Who else would I leave it to?" she said, stroking my head with a look of pure love and tenderness. My eyes welled up, and from that moment on, I changed how I addressed them. My uncle was my dad, and my aunt became my mom. At my new school, no one knew about my past. No one knew my parents weren't my biological parents, and no one knew I had a brother. My grades got better and better. After the college entrance exams, I got into a top state university to study law. Worried that my parents would be lonely, I took a 2-hour bus ride home every weekend. Eventually, they worried I was wasting too much time on travel, so they just moved again, right to the state capital where my university was. They bought a large luxury apartment and a new car. My mom actually looked younger than she had years before. My dad and mom always said that ever since I came into their lives, things had gotten better year after year. Every time they faced a major life decision, they credited me with helping them choose the right path. "Olivia really is our family's good luck charm," my mom would tell everyone. Later, when some distant relatives came to visit, they told us, "Speaking of which, Noah didn't even get into high school. He refuses to find a job and just mooches off his mom. Olivia's birth mother, who's blind in one eye. If she does something he doesn't like, he hits her and screams at her. And that's not all. A while back, he got into a fight over a video game and stabbed a guy, rupturing his spleen. The guy's in intensive care and his family is suing. They want to send Noah to prison. Now Diana is completely ruined by that son of hers. Life was already hard with one eye. Now she has to run around trying to solve her deadbeat son's problems. They're demanding $300,000 in compensation. Where is she going to get that kind of money? You guys should be careful. I bet she'll come looking for you again." The relatives meant well with their warning. But after all these years, my mom and dad couldn't care less about Diana and Noah's lives. These days, their main concern was my future. I was getting married. My fiancé was a brilliant lawyer. He was a college classmate, and we shared the same values and a deep mutual attraction. My parents were busy with all the wedding plans, the banquet, the guest list. They had no time to worry about irrelevant people. But who would have guessed that on my wedding day, my biological mother would show up again? Somehow, she found out the location of my wedding, but she didn't have an invitation, so the security guard wouldn't let her in. If I hadn't gone outside to meet a friend, I never would have run into her. "I already told you my daughter is getting married today. Why won't you let me in?" Diana was wearing a hat, and with her one blind eye, she looked pathetic and ragged. But she was acting as shameless and dramatic as ever. She was shouting at the entrance, drawing a crowd. The security guard rolled his eyes and was about to escort her away. Yeah, right. I've seen your type before. You see a rich family and want to crash the party for a free meal. Dream on. She resorted to her old tricks, throwing a tantrum. Who are you to be so arrogant, you stupid guard? Emma is my daughter. If you don't believe me, call her out here and ask her. The guard pointed at the names on our wedding poster and looked at her like she was an idiot. Ma'am, if you're going to crash a party, at least get your facts straight. What, Emma? The bride's name is Olivia. What? Can't you read? Just as Diana was about to throw herself on the ground and start wailing, I walked over. Hello, I can handle this, I said to the guard with a smile. I led Diana to the side. Oh, Olivia, you look so fancy now. Diana's eyes turned greedy as she took in my outfit. Since the wedding was in the evening, I was just wearing a simple dress suit, but on my wrist was a gold bracelet from my mother-in-law. See, if I hadn't sent you to your aunt's house back then, you never would have been lucky enough to live this kind of life. Hearing her shameless words, I finally had to cut her off. Excuse me, I need to correct you. You didn't send me to my aunt. You abandoned me. My aunt found me and saved me. She's the reason I didn't freeze to death or get kidnapped and killed. In other words, you're the person who abandoned me, the person who almost got me killed. Hearing me say it so bluntly, Diana's face flushed with embarrassment. Oh, come on, you see, it was the right thing to do to separate you from your brother. What do you want? I cut her off impatiently, not wanting to hear her rewrite history. Well, can I borrow some money? Diana wrung her hands. Your brother is not very sensible. He got into a fight and accidentally hurt someone. Now they're demanding compensation and want to send him to prison. You know I don't have much money. Don't worry, as long as you can keep your brother out of jail. I'll make sure he gets a job and earns money. You know, your brother is a good luck charm. If he just applies himself, he's bound to make a fortune. I'll have him pay you back double. After all, you're still blood relatives. Hearing her say this now, all I could feel was how ridiculous it was. After all these years, the first thing she asks isn't how I'm doing or who I'm marrying, but for money. I don't have any, I refused simply. My refusal made her face change instantly. How can you be so stingy? That's your own brother. I'm your own mother. I told her, the day you left me in that park, you stopped being my mother. She started rambling, trying to explain. I had no choice. You were stealing your brother's luck. Look how you've ruined him. He still hasn't recovered. I actually laughed out loud. Really? You still think he's your good luck charm? Then why are you here begging me, the curse, for help? Diana stammered, unable to argue, and started to complain about her hardships again. I cut her off coldly and finally asked the question that had been buried in my heart for years. If that psychic had said that I was the good luck charm and Noah was the curse, would you have abandoned him? How could that be possible? Diana blurted out instinctively. Realizing she'd answered too quickly, she started backpedaling. The psychic said the one born later was the curse. You were the one born later, so Mom had to choose your brother. It was fate, Olivia. I had no choice. I suddenly started to laugh. What if I told you that Dad switched our birth orders on the records? Dad knew you favored boys over girls. He was afraid you'd spoil Noah, so he deliberately said Noah was the older brother. He wanted him to look after me, to protect me, to develop a sense of responsibility as a man. But the truth is, Noah was the one born later. He's the curse the psychic was talking about. Diana's face went white. She stood there stunned for a long moment, then suddenly flew into a rage, screaming at me. What nonsense are you talking? Your brother. He's the lucky one. How could he be the unlucky one? Even though she was denying it, I knew she believed me. Because ever since Noah and I were separated, her life had gone from bad to worse. Meanwhile, my aunt and uncle who adopted me were thriving. It was laughable that even though she clearly believed it, she was still lying to herself. I'm telling you, Noah will be the pillar of our family someday. Don't think just because your aunt and uncle are nice to you now, it means anything. In the end, all those houses and cars, they'll have to give them to your brother. He's the only male heir to the Wilson family. Do you really think they'll leave all their wealth to a girl like you? Seeing Diana's delusions getting bigger and bigger, I decided to extinguish her last flicker of hope. I laughed mockingly. It seems you haven't heard. All the houses and cars are already in my name. That's impossible. Diana refused to believe it, muttering impossible over and over. I used my phone to call security. You should go. Your good luck charm of a son is about to go to prison. Soon you won't even have the chance to wait on him anymore. The guards dragged Diana away. As they pulled her, she was still shouting, Olivia, you ungrateful, worthless girl! The guard, annoyed, covered her mouth. I had started to walk away, but I suddenly stopped. I walked back to Diana and said in a calm, even voice, From the moment you abandoned me, I stopped being Emma. I am Olivia. And now I'm going to find my real mom and dad. I walked away and didn't look back, letting the guards haul the still struggling Diana out of sight. I opened the door to the adjacent room and saw my mom and dad, along with my future husband, happily discussing where to take me on our honeymoon. I smiled and joined them in their warmth. I had known from the very beginning, whether it was being a curse or a good luck charm, it was all just a trick the psychic used to scam people out of their money. Instead of believing in fate, it's better to believe that the harder you work, the luckier you get. And my luck has always been reserved for the people who truly love me.